From the Basement, the only blockchain podcast that interviews the forgotten and downtrodden devs that actually do the work. Hosted by me, Martin G. I've got Mark Simpson here, also known as Bartman. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Martin. How you doing?
All good. Today we're going to talk about what Corda is going to look like in 2040. Now, look, I've known Mark for the past 2-3 years? Pretty much since we did the Corda pub quiz in 2018.
Yeah, it's a long time in crypto years, that, isn't it?
That is a long time. But I guess lots of people, anyone who's listening to this, might not know you so well on a personal level. So let's crack on with these 20 questions. Are you ready, Mark?
Yes, I'm ready. Poised at the ready.
Let's do it. What company do you work for?
So I work for Lab 577, and we are a small company that do our very best to help people with Corda for their digital asset journeys, and also to integrate Corda into whatever systems they want, in whatever language they want, in whatever location they want.
What do you do there, Mark?
Well, I work on Dazzle, Digital Asset Shared Ledger, as one of the core developers in that. But as we're a small company, we also do the accounting, the payroll, we build desks, we do our expenses and basically everything really, design things, put windows in, put windows out, so yes, general thing, but mainly development focused, we hope.
How old were you when you started programming?
I think I was about 14. It was on a 380Z in the physics department, our only school computer, and I wrote "Hello World" as you do in BASIC. After it loaded on a tape after about 10 minutes. So
I can hear it now.
Yeah, sounds like the Prodigy.
So, either an Amstrad on the two.
Yeah.
Have you got a nickname, Mark?
Yes, it's Bart, and it's a really boring story because we had two Marks in the team. The other Mark now works at Trustology, but it got confusing on conference calls, so I took the Bart on the grounds of my surname being Simpson. I've extended it to Bartman 250 because that's how old I am. For all my social media thing is,
where did you go to uni and what did you study?
I never made it. It's because it's probably because I grew up in Watford, and they don't take many people from Watford into good universities. But no, I left school at 16 and joined NatWest and started a long, steady IT career to the top, obviously.
Okay, and when roughly did you start working in software?
Well, I think I've started since I wrote that first program and started writing stuff on all the old home computers, ZX81s, Drang 32s, BBCs, Amigas, those kind of things. But I actually got paid to write code. It took me a little while. It took me till about 1993, and I wrote some assembler for NatWest on an IBM mainframe. So before the internet.
Which industry have you spent most of your career in?
I spent all of it in finance, actually, in banking and finance, investment, and in retail. Before then, I had a paper round and did the occasional golf caddying. So I don't know what I suppose. So you could count that as media and sports, couldn't you? Really, I suppose.
What's your operating system of choice?
I think it chose me. Slowly, people will give me Apple devices, and then I use macOS. But I probably, like a lot of people, I think we get frustrated every time we upgrade our operating systems, and the computer that you bought that used to boot in a second gets slower and slower. So we're going to move to Bartos. By the time we get to 2040, we'll have our own operating system that actually goes faster when you upgrade it. That would be great.
No. Sounds great. Sign me up. What's your programming language of choice?
It depends what I'm doing. Obviously, if it's Corda, it's going to be Kotlin. Kotlin's fantastic. You write about the third of the code that's in Java. I'd never write anything for Corda in Java. Have to do JavaScript and TypeScript as well. Python stuff for data things. Python's great for getting stuff going really, really quickly. And then something for the weekend, maybe a bit of Go, maybe. And every now and then I write the odd C++ program for fun, just so I can keep my hand in back to those days when, I'd spend weeks looking for memory leaks, just for that bit of nostalgia.
A taste of the good old days.
Yeah, a taste of the good old days. Yeah. Memory mismanagement.
What's your favourite music to listen to whilst you code?
I think it depends what I'm doing. I suppose if I'm in the zone and I know what I'm doing, it can be anything that's familiar, and that would range to like pop stuff, to any sort of extreme metal, like I don't know, Morbid Angel or Periphery or Cradle of Filth or something like that. But I like the Minecraft theme as well. If I'm having a bit of a stressy day, the Minecraft theme is the best. I think it's a beautiful piece of music, beautifully underrated.
Right. When was the last time you wrote some code, and what did it do?
It was about half an hour ago. It broke some tests. That's what it did. Yeah, it did. It broke some tests, but now they work. So that's, now I've just broken the build on the server because it probably can't find some dependency. But yeah, that's mainly what it did.
Name one skill all programmers should have.
Persistence. They should. I think that's it's almost like the only skill, because if you got to be persistent in learning, persistent in solving bugs, or if you got a deadline or something, you just got to keep going. And I think that's the when people say who are the 10x developers, they're the people that carried on going when all the 9x developers gave up and went to the pub.
Is Agile a force for good or for bad?
I think it's like the Force. It is like the Force. It has a good side and a bad side. I think if you use it to the manifesto, then it's great to focus on building working software and getting a constant feedback loop with your with the business or customers that you're working for. If you turn it into something called Safe Agile or even Scrum, it's not Agile anymore. It's just the word Agile wrapped up in a metal box, really. In which case it does all the things that the bad empire does, like oppress people and stop them doing anything. And also it generates meetings, which is great if you like talking about what you're doing rather than doing it.
Yeah, if you're charging by the hour.
Yes, exactly.
Do you or have you ever owned any Bitcoin?
Yes. Yeah, and not loads. I've got a few cryptocurrencies that mainly there to experiment with. I think if you're jumping into the crypto world, it's good to muck around with nodes of these these domains and just to understand how they work and how they behave, really. So yeah, the purely recreational cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I think until you've neurotically typed out, the numbers, the ID numbers, and before hitting the send button, and double check that this £10 you're sending isn't about to get lost into the ether of the internet. Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, just lost in
crypto is.
Yeah, just lost in the back end of a contract with there's this bin of all this money that nobody can get to. Yeah,
all the noobs just wasted.
Yeah. Until we get that quantum computer, where we.
Until then, how long have you been using Corda for?
Since We got a very, very early pre-release version at RBS in 2016. So since then, quite a long time actually. Before flows, they were called protocol state machines.
No.
So there you go. You can put that in your pub quiz.
Yeah. What were flows called before?
Protocols. What were flows called before they were called flows? I guess.
Yeah.
Now we told them all the answers on a postcard to the proto state machine contract.
Why did you get into Corda in the first place?
This was my Harry Potter moment actually. Like you do, I was sitting on a train from properly a train from King's Cross going to Scotland, unlike J.K. Rowling, who actually was actually filmed at Paddington, I think. But I was building a prototype in a syndicated lending application, and I was trying to build it on Ethereum. Actually in Solidity to be more precise. And I noticed that I couldn't really build the complex type that I wanted, but I had this early version of Corda, so I thought, I'll do it in Corda. So I quickly watched some videos about it and then within a sort of a few days, I wrote the contract in very early version of Corda, and I thought, well, this is going to work, and it perfectly modelled my situation. So that's how I started with it, really.
The rest is history. There you go. What's the best thing about Corda?
The best thing, we've mentioned it already, the protocol state machines that we now call flows. I think it kind of doesn't get mentioned enough, really.
No.
Everybody talks about the privacy and these kind of things, but I think the flows allow you to easily model a business process and then actually turn it into sort of Corda flow code. So I think that is a really powerful feature. You can draw a sequence diagram, you can turn it into a flow, and it also, for developers who want to get to understand their business, the business can talk about flows and they go, oh yeah, flows, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's really good. I think that's still think is a really powerful thing.
I think everyone's so caught up in the language that came from that we were bequeathed from Bitcoin. That flows get overlooked.
They do, but I think more emphasis should be put on flows.
More emphasis,
front and centre.
Appreciation
flow. Yeah. I'm going to start. We'll start that tomorrow. Yeah, we'll start tomorrow.
I feel a Michael Caine whistling tune coming up. Right, next question. What's the worst thing about Corda?
Oh, always asking me controversial questions. I think, and it's probably fair to say with all kind of blockchain platforms, the size of the node is a problem for, I think, developers and consumers. It uses, you have to run these things on sizable laptops if you're debugging them and that kind of thing. And I think now that we're moving into a world of the great illusion of serverless sort of things in the cloud, it would be great to see a kind of like a serverless Corda or nano nodes that we can run on like tiny devices. So I think that would be, I'd like to see that happen where, the nodes get smaller so we can run, and obviously they'd be greener as well. So that's what I'd like to see.
That'd be a good one, like it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What's your favourite Corda open source library?
Can I have two?
Well then.
I can't pick one. Well, you see, one doesn't happen without the other. So the first one is obviously Corda open source. So at one point we didn't think it would be open sourced, and the fact that we're here talking about Corda and is the fact that the adoption comes through the open source library and the sort of community around it and the kind of developer relationships around it. So that's why I think it's good that it's open source, and then you can upgrade to enterprise. I think that's cool. The second one, or part of the second one, is it's got to be Cordite, but particularly the Cordite NMS, or the Cordite Network Map Service, because it's managed to, and I didn't write that. I think Fuzz wrote that, so I can't take credit for it really. But everybody's used that in the Corda community. So I think as a open source project, I think that's hugely successful and hugely useful. So yeah, I only wish we commercialized it earlier.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you're right though. I mean, absolutely everybody, from what I could tell, who's got any experience with Corda has used a Cordite NMS. So, oh yeah, and it just happens to have been written by one of your colleagues, by your company.
Yes, that's right. And actually, the rest of Cordite is obviously awesome as well, with our dowels in there and a metering as well. So we are pleased. We are pleased with that. But I think the NMS has been, as an open source library, a big success.
Well, I'm sure we're going to be talking about Corda in the next couple of minutes. There'll be plenty more opportunities for shameless plugs.
Absolutely. That's why we're here, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Last question: what's the best place to start with Corda?
I think the Kotlin Corda app template is to start with that. Not the Java one. Ignore that one. That one shouldn't be there anymore. We shouldn't encourage it. And I think just do that. See if you can create some counts, use some tokens, and flip some stuff around the network. I think that's is by doing it. Obviously, you can read the white papers, really good for getting the concepts around, but actually downloading the template and trying to build a Corda app, I think the template's pretty good. Yeah.
Great. Right. Let's get on to business, shall we? What we want to talk about what's Corda going to look like in 2040. What do you think, Mark?
What do we think? I think there's going to be lots of amazing things between now and 2040. And the first one, I guess we allude to first of all is the actual node itself, or the sort of, let's call it, we've got serverless Corda. Let's have serverless sort of process. Have nodeless Corda. So I think Corda will be a kind of, in the way that HTTP is a standard internet protocol now, Corda will be the protocol for exchange of value in the future. So it won't be the only one, because we always need many things if we're Darwinist. But I think it will be one of the things that's a protocol. And
so an actual, like rather than an HTTP, it could be a HTPC or
I was gonna say flow text ramper, but then that would be FTTP, and then that would it wouldn't quite work. But yeah, it will be a someone needs to name it. I think
we need someone really good with acronyms to come up.
Yeah, our three can do the acronym on that.
Definitely not the bloke that came up with CDBC.
CDBC, yeah.
What's wrong with a 3-letter acronym? You know. Well, honestly,
yeah.
What's wrong? 3 letters not good enough for you?
Yeah, I just thought CDBC was the central bank sort of like house metal band, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
CDBC, very good. But yeah, no, I think.
Come on.
I think to see that, and I think having Corda be able to run on small devices. Yeah. I mean, we've run it on a Raspberry Pi and that, but to run effectively and efficiently on a Raspberry Pi or phones or tiny devices, or even old devices. You know, if I get my 2011 Mac and open that up, or some
ancient
devices. we the trouble is we upgrade our operating systems all the time and stuff like that. It'd be good if it just run on a device. You know, like the what was it? Was it Pioneer that's been out in space for about 35 years now, and that operating system's still running? You know, it'd be great to see, like, you put a Corda contract there, and let's say the token.
But I guess that's running on COBOL, is it?
I don't know.
Is this going to turn into a call for R3 to encourage the adoption of COBOL, COBOL written Corda apps? Where's this going, Mark?
No. Yeah. Well,
resilience
and COBOL.
If it's good enough for space.
Yeah. That actually, that's a good word to pick on. Actually, is resilience. I think.
Oh, I think so, space, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think in the future as well, we have, there's the node recovery service that's there, but I think one of the great things about blockchain networks is they're just resistance to failure. The more sort of nodes or sub nodes or nano nodes we create, the more the thing is, it's a bit like knotweed in your garden. You just can't knock these, you just can't turn all the computers off in the end. So once that recovery works kind of seamlessly, and you just need to log on with, I don't know, by using your face or your fingerprint or something like that, so you can get your data back. I think that'd be awesome as well.
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the issues that we came up with at Corda Club when we were trying to build a Texas Hold'em poker called app. I mean, for the demos, one of the teams did a live demo and actually played a hand of poker in front of the judges. One of the other teams got pretty close. And in the pub afterwards, I was saying, come on, guys. I mean, how far away are we from actually going live with a free-to-play, truly decentralised, distributed Texas Hold'em poker Corda app? And it basically came down to the fact that Corda's is not a peer-to-peer platform. It's a B2B solution. Now, we did do it just before the Corda accounts library came out, and the ability to host nodes using cloud was released, so perhaps it would have been easier, but the core issue, I think, still stands that nodes are just simply not lightweight enough for people to quickly spin up a game of Corda poker.
Yeah, I think that's true of all. Like I say, if you run a full Bitcoin node or Ethereum node, you're effectively going to run that on a fairly beefy machine, be it in the cloud or something like that. So this idea of being able to have some kind of lightweight footprint, I think is not only, with, like I say, we're not just messing around here. I think it's actually a really useful thing to do, and being able to, the barriers to adoption of things are the amount of devices they can run on. And I know that people like in Africa have set up networks where people just on SMS phones, lightweight SMS phones. So I just dropped something in my room. Don't worry. But if you can run these things on, we should. The trouble is with the cloud, we can go in, we can spin up massive machines, or every year you try and buy a bigger and bigger Windows PC or Mac or stuff like that. And I wish we'd think around the other way, say, how can we make this smaller? How can we make our code smaller so the adoption reaches a wider community? So your mum can run a Corda node basically without.
No. I thought we were going for entrepreneurs, in the third world. I mean, I thought that was where the innovation is going to come from, but no. You heard it here first. The Silver Surfers innovation is going to be driven by the Silver Surfers.
Well, yeah,
they finally can set up their own Corda node.
Yeah, well, actually, talk about that in the kind of, I've seen these. What do they call it? They call them petrol can. I think they're petrol can, jerry can computers. That's right. The sort of computers that were built into jerry cans that people were using in Africa, and I love the idea that we can scavenge like technology that's like there's a couple of old phones. I bet you everybody listening has got a couple of old phones sitting somewhere in their house that they haven't taken back to the store, but if they could plug that in and use the power to extend the Corda network, or even give to someone to do some tiny transactions, I think that barrier to adoption will go, will widen. More people, not widen, more people will be able to come over that barrier. And taking that further out, I think if we have biocomputers as well, we'll actually be able to grow those.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Say that?
Yeah, people have been working on biocomputers are quite successful, even though it almost feels like it's at the similar stage to quantum computers, where they can have a few bits running on some organic material. But I think if you can actually grow these things in your garden.
So this is some kind of, these are computers that are plants, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Jason and the World Warriors, basically.
Well, yeah, something like
Okay,
that.
all right, go for it. Yeah.
So I think
Jason and the World Warriors. Yeah.
So I think if it runs on Triffids or other kind of things, I think we have to think about that as then it means us pulling less silicon out the ground or whatever things we do with it. I think that would be a good thing.
Okay, so it feels like we've been talking about a mix between what elements of Corda are going to make it to 2040 and what they might look like when they get there. Any other thoughts about what parts of Corda have that 2040 promise to them, and what they might look like when they get there?
I was going to say. So the other thing, what is it going to look like? I think one of the things we touched on was the contract languages and those kind of things. What will they look like now we've got sort of GPT-3? It becomes very interesting. At the moment, you can write your contract in most sort of JVM based things, but in the future, will our lawyers just be speaking the contracts into the computer and then GPT will translate it into a Corda contract?
Right. So you're talking. So you because that is one of the complaints about. Well, I don't know complaints, but that is one of the things that people say that R3 hasn't spent enough time on, which is contract language, right? And that's why you've got stuff like people using Dion and Daml. I think they're two providers of smart contract languages, and sort of plugging those into Corda and using those as their smart contract to write their smart contracts with, instead of the out of the box smart contracts language you get with Corda. But you're saying we might end up. You're saying it feels like you're talking about natural language processing just now. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, I think there was a study with UCL on maybe they're still doing it, and it was a little while ago actually, where they were looking at a legal contract and say like a Corda or blockchain contract. I don't think it's particularly Corda actually, but it was a blockchain contract, and the idea that then they'd have something to process both and then compare the two and say were they were they doing the same thing essentially. And funnily enough as well, I was sitting on a panel at one of these blockchain shows, and it was half developers and half lawyers, and we were basically having a quiet argument about whether computers can do legal code, and they were saying no way, and obviously the developers saying yes way. But I kind of said, and it met with blank faces, I said the problem with both is they're both too complicated. Nobody understands legal language apart from domain experts, and nobody understands programming apart from domain experts. But if we can sort of say something into a computer where it actually creates a contract that actually makes sense, that we can understand, that's probably where we want to go rather than. And I do think with contract languages, I think we have to be very, very careful that we move them up to be a human understandable level, rather than writing something that is just a different complicated language. I think that's the challenge. One thing that always
with contract languages.
One thing that always strikes me about contract languages is that with a written contract, paper and pen contract written by lawyers, there's like some wiggle room, and if it's like if there was a typo and they accidentally wrote, the beneficiary of the will pay over a sum of £1 million over to the deceased person's account, then it's not the end of the world, because you just read that and you'd be like, oh, idiot, just toss that out and move it around. But if that's a smart contract, then if the deceased person's account is still running, well then that's it, sweetheart. You've lost your £1 million. You've lost all your savings. You've just gone into receivership, or do you know what I mean? Because it's a smart contract and it's just been executed.
Yes, so I think there was a word they used, and I can't remember what it was, but things like beyond reasonable doubt or something like that. I'm not sure if a computer can work
Yeah.
out beyond reasonable doubt,
No.
and then of course, although I don't understand it in depth, you got Gödel's incompleteness theorem that says any formal system will never be complete or never work, kind of perfectly. Probably misquoting that, but I think one of the things basically, I might get this wrong. Materium done by Vinny Gupta
Oh
was,
yeah.
the idea was that you'd have your contract, and then when those conditions sort of couldn't be met by the computer, there would be arbitration between humans,
That's
and
interesting.
and
Yeah.
that's the Yes. Yeah. So the way it's kind of the way I think about automation anyway. 100% automation is really, really difficult, but 80% automation is possible. So with contracts and stuff like that, you can certainly get a derivative to pay out if the price of
Yeah.
Bitcoin is, let's say, £20,000, just to scare everybody. And you can certainly do that. But if it's to decide whether, the guy that crashed into the back of my car on his moped should be paid out,
Yeah.
because he was trying in a hurry, then
Yeah.
then I think it's harder. But so yeah, I think we have to be careful what we code in those things. Yeah, send all Martin's money to Mark if he doesn't publish his podcast or something like that. I think,
Yeah, I think that's definitely
quite good.
an error there. Yeah. All right. Well, look. What about we've been talking about what Corda's going to have, what it's going to look like, what it's going to take to get to 2040. What about what Corda will actually be used for? One thing I think about is how we're going to get paid.
Yes.
And coming back to Cordite and the gig economy, and the open source bug bounty scheme that we run back in the day, back in late 2018.
Was it that long ago?
It was. I think it actually was that
Yeah.
long ago. And we tried to set up an open source bug bounty scheme. Now, we modelled quite a few flows. We got so far, but we didn't get it, unfortunately, anywhere near going live. But what about what Corda will be used for?
I mean,
transfer value and what it'll be used for.
I think that's a really, really good point. We run a lab, we run open source library, which is Corda, and I'm sure a lot of other people run their own open source libraries either. And I'm sure a lot of them they don't do for fun, and some of them are sponsored by large organizations. But at the end of the day, as an open source contributor, you might get a thanks or a thumbs up. Actually, usually you get someone complaining that your code doesn't work, and why can't you fix this, and why can't I have this feature for free
fix it right now?
And I think the extrapolation with that, if we've got some super AI that can then detect somebody's, let's say somebody's contributed
frustration.
Somebody's like contributed to Corda open source, and the AI engine looks at it and go, that was good, loads of people have used it, it's been this good for the economy, and then it automatically pays them in tokens from Corda. I think that would be awesome. Nice. And it'd be good for open source developers to get rewarded directly for their contributions. That would make it very, very interesting. It wouldn't make a gig economy, because gig economy is always on the grounds of someone controlling you to do something. They provide the sort of demand, whereas here it's kind of like the other way around. But I think that would be
and is in 2040, is this is this automated, is this artificially intelligent run bug bounty scheme, is this an open source effort? Is it itself an open source effort? Or is this enterprise software looking like open source because they fired everyone and now everyone just writes bug fixes
for the open I guess in theory, and then it doesn't matter as long as people get paid for creating the software. Then if it's open source, it doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, it'd have to eat its own dog food, wouldn't it? You'd have to have a bug bounty for creating the bug bounty.
Exactly.
so
let's be ambitious. Let's be ambitious about 2040.
Yeah, but I think that would be a good way to go. And I think that, you know, we say that for obviously because we're in the development space, but for any other of these people contributing digital content to be paid decently for that digital content, you know, for people that make music, make digital art or films and stuff like that, to be paid in that kind of automated way, then I think that would be really a really cool thing, and certainly would encourage people to add more to it, which then is good for the whole kind of community, really.
Right, let's try and wrap this all up then. So what have we got at the moment? We've got but 2040, we've got lightweight nodes, running on scavenged networks.
Yes.
With innovation being driven not just in the third world, but by the Silver Surfers. Which of course by then will be us. Anyway,
I certainly will be drawing my pension then.
What else have we got? We've got lightweight nodes, resilience. I've got written down. Smart, the natural language processing. Smart contracts. Driven smart contracts.
You might even have sort of little, I don't know, thick probes on your head that hear your thoughts and then, you know, translate them into your smart contract instructions. You may well do, you know, so that you can talk to these biocomputers, you know, if they're
So we've got, so I'm imagining, so 2040, we got Todd McDonald, you know, he walks into a bar and orders a pint from a pot. There's a pot plant sitting there, and the pot plant he's not only running a Corda, it's running a Corda node. He talks to a Corda app, which is running on a pot plant, which is running a Corda node. But he thinks his order.
He thinks his order. That's right.
Yep. And the pot plant automatically, you know, ensures his pint is served up to him.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, if he sort of ends up with, say, like half a pint of Jack Daniels, for example, by mistake, then the barman would think a fix to the code.
Yeah. He'd have to go to a vote first.
Yeah, he'd have to go to.
By which time he might be completely pissed.
Yeah. But if the barman fixes it, then in his head, he also gets paid for his contribution. Yes. And then he obviously puts on Todd's favourite music, which is CBDC, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So
I'm sure about that somewhere.
But,
right.
It might happen. It might happen, but
you heard it here first. Right. We need to wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for joining me.
It's been a pleasure. I just hope everybody doesn't think we're barking mad now.
I think so. All right, and I wish you all the best of luck with whatever you guys at Lamp 577 are cooking up next.
Yeah, more dazzle coming your way. More dazzle, more cordite. There will be more. There will be some more cordite things. There's some work going on there. So lots of interesting things going to happen over the next couple of months. So,
all right, see you later. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Martin. Bye.
You can follow me on Twitter to catch future episodes, and all previous episodes can be found at the best streaming services, as well as on YouTube. This show was made by me, Martin G, and my highly underpaid nephew, Oscar Bennett. And despite a blockchain fairy dying every time I say it, this was From the Basement.